This video is for entertainment purposes only. These are just my opinions based on observations going back to 2020, which are compiled here for your viewing pleasure. These comments are not endorsed by Sir Ridley Scott or Warner Brothers Discovery Media.
Begin simulation.
Dune Prophecy is a new show on Max, which is a prequel to the Dune movie series. This 6-part miniseries explores the origins of the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood and their use of interplanetary genetic manipulation with messianic overtones and the use of religious zealotry. The series has an all-star cast for the infamous great houses from across the Dune universe, including one very familiar actor whose role in this series drudged up far-off memories of another character that Travis Fimmel had brought to life in another series from Max about interplanetary genetic manipulation with messianic overtones and the use of religious zealotry. Raised by Wolves was one of the very first series to premiere on HBO Max when the platform debuted amidst the streaming wars of 2020, smack dab in the middle of the pandemic, when every major network was throwing itself ass over tea kettle to have the freshest and flashiest streaming platform for the masses who were trapped in their homes. Raised by Wolves shot to the top for the fledgling streamer, quickly becoming its top-performing original series, doubling the platform's audience by its second week. Created and produced by Aaron Guzikowski and Sir Ridley Scott, the series centered around 2 androids tasked with raising human children on a mysterious virgin planet called Kepler-22b, while a burgeoning colony of humans struggle to survive after Earth is demolished by a war between the Mithraic, who follow a god called Sol, and militant atheists. The series was Ridley Scott's first television directing role in 50 years. Scott said his tendency was to think, "I don't want to go down that road of androids again," but decided to take on the project after he read the script and liked it. Scott is a well-known director who's very familiar with alien worlds and sentient androids, while Guzikowski, who's known for writing the movies Contraband, Prisoners, and the series Red Road, created the Raised by Wolves world with 5 full seasons planned. The series starred Danish actress Amanda Collin and Abubakar Salim as the android's mother and father, and Wynta McGrath as Campion, their human child raised from an embryo. Also starring as an atheist disguised as a faithful Mithraist is Travis Fimmel, who plays Marcus Drusus, a warrior who believes he's been chosen by Sol as an intermediary. Things were just starting to get very interesting for his character, but we'll get into more of that later. The series debuted on September 3rd, 2020, 3 months after the launch of the HBO Max streaming platform. The series had a hard launch, showing the first 3 episodes on September 3rd, episodes 4 and 5 September 10th, 6 and 7 September 17th, 8 and 9 on September 24th, and the final episode on October 1st. You might remember that schedule being conducive to lockdowns at that time. The show was very well received, quickly becoming a fan favorite, and according to a Deadline article from October 6, 2020, Aaron Guzikowski had just signed an overall deal with HBO Max after the success of Season 1. Now, this is really important, and we're going to get into all the details of these contracts in just a moment, but for now it's important to remember that an overall deal is a contract between a content creator and a studio that gives the studio the right to own and develop any ideas created by the creator during the deal. Things looked promising for Raised by Wolves. Then, in February 2021, enter the villain of this story, when, according to the New York Times, David Zaslav, the overpaid CEO of the Discovery Network, one lazy Saturday afternoon sent a golf emoji-laden email to the then CEO of AT&T Time Warner Media, Jeff Stankey. Zaslav was desperately in need of more assets amidst the burgeoning streaming wars, and, let's be honest, no one is interested in watching reruns of Dr. Pimple Popper or My 600-Pound Life from his portfolio at Discovery. He wanted a merger with Warner Media, which included HBO, CNN, and other cable networks, a thriving video game division, and rights to Harry Potter movie merchandise and theme park attractions. It took nearly a year for the acquisition to go through, after which Zaslav was the CEO of the new Warner Brothers Discovery Media, changing the name from HBO Max to just Max. The deal was finalized April 8, 2022. Zaslav came into the position with the goal of cutting excess spending within the company, setting the bar at $3 billion, while reassuring anxious audiences around Hollywood that he was committed to continuing the industry's great legacy of storytelling in this uncertain new age. There would be more movies, bigger movies, and not on laptops or TV screens, but on the big screen where they belonged. At this time, Raised by Wolves was in production for its second season, filming in South Africa on an elaborate production set. Season 2 premiered February 3rd, 2022, and aired through March 17th, 2022, notably dropping from 10 episodes in Season 1 to 8 in Season 2. The season was met with similar success to Season 1, and fans were fervent to see where the next chapter of the series would go after leaving on one of the wildest cliffhangers for any series on any platform. But in a twist that no one saw coming, on June 3rd, 2022, it was announced that Raised by Wolves would not proceed with the third season, and the series had been canceled. The cast of the series were shocked and disappointed by the cancellation, even rallying forces to petition for a renewal. Abu Bakr Salim, who played Father, and Niamh Alger, who played Sue, both spoke up about how heartbroken they were and encouraged fans to try and get another network to pick up the series. Fans even came together and purchased a billboard in Times Square in efforts to get the series renewed, but it was to no avail. Raised by Wolves was canceled. To add salt to the wound, Zaslav went a step further. The series was placed onto a FAST network in a deal where Zaslav sold a massive catalog of HBO Max media, meaning it airs on FAST networks, but viewers must purchase each episode in order to view it. FAST networks are free, ad-supported television networks, such as Peacock, Roku, and Tubi. Raised by Wolves was effectively deleted from Max, once its top-performing series on the new streaming platform as they struggled to stay above water, to literally being wiped from the face of Kepler 22b and cast off to Lankavale to harvest whale blubber. Now, I covered Raised by Wolves here on my channel, and it was truly one of the best experiences I had as a content creator. The fans of the show were amazing, and everyone truly enjoyed the dystopian mysteries within the show. I loved theorizing and making videos for the series, and I got great views on my videos, so there was an awesome fandom who wanted more from this world. And as I mentioned, Aaron Guzikowski had mapped out 5 whole seasons for Raised by Wolves. You can tell how unexpected the cancellation was by the final episodes of the show. It was left on such a cliffhanger that there was just no opportunity to tie up the series with a nice bow. It was just literally left unfinished. Interestingly, last summer, all of my Raised by Wolves videos were systematically flagged and demonetized by YouTube for copyright claims from the copyright owners, whoever that is at this point. They are almost 3-year-old videos based on a show that's been wiped from the internet, yet for some reason, YouTube began flagging all of them. It was very strange, and most of them were restored after requesting a manual review. The videos are pretty old, and most of my Raised by Wolves content doesn't get a ton of views at this point, so I was left a bit perplexed as to why they even bothered trying. But I soon realized the answer to that when Dune Prophecy premiered. Now, I'm not claiming that Dune Prophecy borrowed the storyline from Raised by Wolves, but I will say that it is certainly remarkable that Max has tried so desperately to bury the story of Raised by Wolves while simultaneously making a series so very, very similar that is Dune Prophecy. I realize the Dune universe is based on a book series, but the least you could do is make it better than Raised by Wolves. I even considered covering the series on my channel. Like, I literally recorded the audio and everything, but something was just nagging at me to wait and see how it turned out, and I'm glad that I did. The real slap in the face is that Travis Fimmel was cast in the series as basically the exact same character he played in Raised by Wolves, and it must be said, he is carrying the entirety of Dune Prophecy on his shoulders, and I would honestly not even bother watching it if it weren't for him. You may have noticed that Mother and Father were also recast in Max series when they both appeared in the second season of House of the Dragon. So the 3 main characters in Raised by Wolves were all recast in Max series, which also made me wonder about the contracts that they might have been held under. This is purely speculation, but I do know that actors may be under exclusivity contracts where they're contracted to the studio for a duration of time that may extend up to 1 year. Well, Would you be surprised to learn that all of the follow-up projects for these actors were filmed within 1 year of the cancellation of Raised by Wolves? We talked about how Raised by Wolves creator Aaron Guzikowski signed an overall deal for the series after the success of season 1. So prior to that, it seems very likely that the series was under what is called a first look deal contract. A first look deal is a legal agreement where one party, like the producer or creator, gives another party, like a studio or network, the exclusive right to be the first to consider developing any new projects they're working on, essentially granting them a first look at potential content before it can be pitched elsewhere. And if the first party declines, the creator can then shop the project around to other buyers. From the beginning, Guzikowski had planned 5 seasons of this series. So when the overall deal was signed, it was a signal from Warner Brothers that they were on board for all 5 seasons. Again, this was their top performing series at a very tumultuous period of time for media, which was the launch of the streaming platforms. So when the merger happened in 2022 and Zaslav took over, he callously threw that deal out the window while also seizing control over Guzikowski's IP. Warner Brothers purchased the rights to own the future of Raised by Wolves, then sold those rights to Fast Networks, which will never finish out the IP. As far as their contracts or deals go, I actually don't even know if they have the right to finish out the projects if they wanted to. According to the New York Times in their article, How David Zaslav Blew Up Hollywood, we learn even more about Zaslav's motivations. Cuts are the norm after a merger, but Zaslav and Wiedenfels were pushing things hard and in sometimes unorthodox directions by shelving several nearly completed projects, including the animated direct-to-streaming movie Scoob Holiday Hunt and the 4th season of the post-apocalyptic TV series Snowpiercer. They saved millions in post-production and marketing costs, as well as residuals down the line, and they locked in hefty tax breaks up front. For Zaslav and Wiedenfels, the money would come from making sure that no one would get to see the shows in the first place. Zaslav also shelved the completed projects Batgirl and Coyote vs. Acme, attempting to use both for tens of millions of dollars in tax write-offs. So David Zaslav has no problem destroying relationships with creatives in order to achieve his goals. He fired thousands from Warner Brothers in 2022 and may have single-handedly been the reason for the WGA SAG-AFTRA strike in 2023, which shut down Hollywood for months. In my opinion, I believe the same may have happened with Sir Ridley Scott and probably many of the creatives behind Raised by Wolves. As one of the first on the chopping block of the slaughterhouse, I have a strong feeling that Ridley Scott had some choice words for Zaslav. For what it's worth, Ridley Scott has not worked for or associated with Warner Brothers since Raised by Wolves was canceled. He has continued his illustrious career under his own production house, Scott Free Productions, as well as partnering with Apple TV+, Sony Productions, and MGM to produce movies such as Gladiator 2, Napoleon, House of Gucci, and The Last Duel, as well as future projects with ABC, Hulu, and Paramount. Sir Ridley Scott is 86 years old and shows no sign of stopping anytime soon, but expresses no desire or plans to work with Warner Brothers while they're under the leadership of David Zaslav. At the end of the day, fans of Raised by Wolves are left with so many questions, but we all want the same thing: the next chapter of this incredible series and a pathway to end this story. Will Mother find her way out of the sim pod? And why the heck was Marcus Reverse Necromancer floating? If Dune Prophecy is too predictable, one thing Raised by Wolves absolutely was predictable. And look, I get it. Warner Brothers is putting their dragon eggs into the Dune basket. They are producing the Dune movies, so obviously making a series like Dune Prophecy would inevitably have shared overtones. Interestingly, I theorized in another video that it was House of the Dragon which forced out Raised by Wolves because dragons and number 7, etc. A lot of you guys watched that and had plenty of feedback for me, so thanks for that. But looking back now, it's very obvious that Dune Prophecy was the real cause of the cancellation of Raised by Wolves. The first Dune movie premiered in October 2021, months into Zaslav's acquisition of Warner Brothers, and filming for Dune Prophecy started in November 2022, just months after the Raised by Wolves cancellation, casting Travis Fimmel as Desmond Hart while under the same exclusivity contract. The characters, the setting, the futuristic sci-fi dystopian planets, Genetic manipulation and A Chosen One all provide very similar archetypical storytelling. But while Dune Prophecy just sort of hits as mid, sort of lackluster, or just somewhat predictable, Raised by Wolves was something so different, it shocked the senses and set itself apart from anything we had ever seen then or have seen since. I find Dune Prophecy to kind of be the great value version of Raised by Wolves, and I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. Max tried their hardest to bury Raised by Wolves so that no one would remember its greatness, in hopes of replacing it with Dune Prophecy, which is just the washed-up version of a once great HBO Max original series. They could have run with it, but chose what they perceived as the safer option. However, they should take a lesson from the inundation of superhero movies or Disney princess films. At a certain point, enough is enough. Less is more. Keep us wanting more. We don't need Dune and Dune 2 and a Dune series and Dune this and Dune that. Just like we don't need an influx of A Song of Ice and Fire content. Just like we don't need 9,000 Marvel movies. People are tired of the sequels and prequels and just pure lack of originality. I could go on digging into Zaslav, but I think we've pretty much covered it here. As much as we really, really want it for Christmas, to be perfectly frank, I don't think we're ever going to get a Raised by Wolves renewal. I think Zaslav crushed any hope for that to happen, which really provides a glimpse into the cutthroat industry they're in and how easy it is for executives to snatch up the dreams of creatives and their hard work and effectively render it as lost media amidst a corporate merger. I mean, at this point, you really have to search to find Raised by Wolves and pay for it in order to view it. So it's like, what was the reason? Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate your support. And to my Raised by Wolves people, thanks for being here over the years. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something from it. I've linked the articles I referenced in the description, and I highly recommend the New York Times article, How David Zaslav Blew Up Hollywood. Let me know your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.